I want to welcome to the show the host of the new Cathouse Hollywood podcast. He's also been the host of MTV's Headbangers Ball. Welcome, Riki Rachtman. How's it going, man?
Crazy. Just been doing interviews all day, so it's a big, crazy, fun day.
What really got you into music when you first started? Obviously, when you started being in bands, how did you really get going?
Like everybody, I've always loved music. My earliest memories are listening to rock and roll. When I was a kid and I had to make a little scrapbook and draw pictures of what I wanted to be when I grew up, I drew a picture of a record that said Sweet Little Willie, and I said I want to be a DJ. So I've always wanted to. My father was a manager. I didn't live with my father, but because when I would get to be with my dad, I would get to go to shows and meet certain bands, but he didn't really help me at all get in the music business. It was something that I just really, really wanted to do, and figured out ways to kind of crawl and claw my way in. And I guess now that I look at it, the Cathouse was the first, thing I did that really was in the music business. That was the first gig that I ever had, that I guess in the music business.
Before even getting on TV, did you ever have any training on doing TV or interviews before you actually...
Have you seen me on my early shows?
Yes, and that's the thing. That's why
When I went to audition, I saw videotapes of my audition, and I was so terrible. And I didn't even, it honestly was as simple as me saying to Axel, hey, I'd like to, maybe I could get on MTV once. Like, I'll make some calls, I'll hook it up. It really was like that. So I had no experience on TV. Of course, I wanted to be a DJ or do something in music, but I had no experience. So they put me in camera without any training whatsoever. And I've looked at some of the early shows, and I was terrible. My questions were horrible. It was the typical questions like, oh, Chris Cornell, I heard there's a scene in Seattle. It's just terrible. And as it progressed, I got a little bit better because I did it all the time.
Yeah.
And to the point of not asking about the producer and where you recorded, and instead just doing stupid stuff and hanging out. And then, I started doing radio and talk radio, and I just kind of got into the whole thing with interviewing, and even in NASCAR I'm doing, tons of interviews every week. And I just think I got better and better at it, and I just try to have conversations instead of interviews. And I look at some of those early shows on Headbangers Ball, and I was like, oh my God, if I was sitting at home and I saw me, I would hate me.
Yeah, hey, they gave you the chance, and they let it run for a while before you even got really good, because obviously now you're a legend in the industry, so it's great.
But yeah, it was fun because I think the cool thing is that a lot of people said, okay, this Riki guy, he's from Hollywood, he has this club, he's not a TV guy, and that's okay. And some people saw, there was even a special on MTV, and they showed Tommy Lee talking about seeing on Headbangers Ball. It's like, oh, look, man, it's our buddy on TV, because they all knew me from the clubs.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of cool because I didn't have a background and didn't know what I was doing, and sure didn't know anything about interviewing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a learned skill, that's for sure, especially the conversation-style interviews.
Right, but to learn it when you're in front of millions of people that can't wait to rip you to shreds. Thank God we didn't have the internet back then.
I was going to say, aren't you happy there was no social media in the late 80s? Oh, my God.
I get the haters now, and the show's been off the air for 20 years. If we had it now, I would have been hanging from a rope.
Yeah, basically, yeah, you probably wouldn't have been on TV much longer. But you know what? That was back then. That was before all that stuff. So, it worked out for you. Obviously, you've turned it into a pretty good business for yourself. Everything that like you said, you've done, from the NASCAR to, the TV shows, the radio shows, all that. So you've done pretty well with that. So let's go to your famous friend. So you mentioned Axel basically kind of helped get you the job at MTV. What was your relationship with Axel early on? How did you guys get together, meet, and how is things now?
Axel was the best. If you listen to the podcast, there's a lot of great Axel stories in there because he was so influential in so many of the things that I did, from hooking up my MTV audition to, playing the Cathouse after they had played a stadium in front of 100,000 people 2 days before, to talking about me and the club on stage, and bringing me into the studio to sing background vocals on songs. I mean, he was just a really, really good friend that was very, very helpful. I mean, everybody in that band was, but Axel in particular. And he was just a good guy, and he was just completely out of his mind, crazy, but in a good way. It was just a really great time. And, you know, it's weird to tell some of these stories because it sounds like I'm just such a name dropper, but, you know, my friends just happened to be in huge bands, and they were the same friends before they were in bands. Then they got huge, so it's kind of weird. It just seems like I'm name dropping all the time.
Yeah, I hear you. And going with that, do you usually ask your friends before you kind of unveil some of these stories, or do they just happen and you're like, you know what, fuck it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. It happened.
Yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
usually what I do is I have friends tell the story themselves. So
Okay.
that, like, now I haven't talked to Axel for a couple of years, but on the last episode, you know, I didn't want to research what other articles were written about the Axel David Bowie thing,
Yeah.
but I looked in Rolling Stone and it said that Axl Rose punched David Bowie. And I was like, okay, I don't remember that happening. I go, I got to figure out. And I haven't spoken to Axl for years, but I'm like, okay, I'll ask Duff and I'll ask Slash. And Duff said, I don't think Axl hit him. And then Slash says, no, I don't remember him hitting him. I'm like, okay, well, that's good enough sources for me.
Yeah.
You know? So I went with that. And sometimes it's them telling the stories. And the cool thing about the Cathouse Hollywood podcast is it is not a reporter or a journalist talking about an incident
Correct.
that they're reporting on. It was people that were there. It
Yep.
was people that did it. It was me saying, we went here and then we did this, and then Nikki did this, or Tommy did this, or whatever, or Cherie saying, and then Izzy did this to me, and that's why I did this, or whatever. So it's those type of stories, firsthand stories that have never been told by the people that were part of the stories. It's not, I mean, I don't like to think of it as a tell-all, but it is some pretty crazy stories about a lot of big-name people, but
Yeah.
it's also stories of the era. You know, I try to make it like an audiobook. You know, episode 4, which is my favorite, because it's just about me, and it's talking about, you know, going to punk rock shows, and my friend Drew started the company Lip Service, and then we rented the Starwood out to do our first show, and, you know, it's just kind of like a trip through all these different parts of LA, and I didn't know how that would work. You know, when I put that episode up there, I'm like, okay, I don't have a big tell-all about any band. Are people going to like this? And they loved it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, good.
Exactly. And I mean, you got to get those stories out. And what actually made you kind of 20, 30 years after these stories, what made you kind of push things out there? I mean, what was that idea to get it out?
Nothing to do with the dirt. I will tell you that. Okay, despite people thinking
Yeah.
that it was the dirt, I've been asked forever to do a book, and if I did a book, it would be about, you know, porn star girlfriends quitting
Mhm.
drugs, going bankrupt, and the Cathouse and MTV and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think everybody wants to hear me talk about bands, and so I didn't do a book. But then I started doing this podcast that is just kind of me telling my stories. And every episode, I really didn't know what it was going to be like. The very first episode is only 11 minutes long, and it was just kind of tell a little Cathouse story. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll tell a little bit more. And then the next thing you know, the shows are like an hour long.
Mhm.
And then I did 2 broadcasts. I did 2 recordings live, and I'm telling stories, and people are just sitting here listening to stories. I'm like, people just like to hear these stories. And it's not because it's me. It's like people like to hear stories. You know, I like to hear somebody come up and they can tell me about working on the railroad, but if they tell it correctly, to me it's interesting because it's something that I don't know anything about. And I'm telling stories of a slice of an era that I do know about. And, you know, I mean, obviously it's not done for money. You know, it's like right now, today, 7 of the episodes are on the top 200 of podcasts on iTunes, and I'm number 5 on iTunes. Okay?
That's awesome.
If every episode I did was number 1, I get paid the same amount of money, which is 0. I don't get any money for these things. I'm not part of a network. I'm not a syndicate. I'm not syndicated. I don't have sponsors. So I'm just doing this because I like to do it. I mean, I hope. Now I'm thinking, man, I should have had sponsors. I could have made some money.
I was going to say, what's up with that? I mean, wouldn't you think about doing that?
I'm starting to believe now that, you know, because I'm doing everything myself. That's why sometimes the levels go up and down, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't know that the podcast was going to be as successful as it is. I had no clue. And, all these people that I'm asking for advice. I'm like, well, what do I do with this part? Is this part? And then I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute, I've got like 10 times more downloads than they do, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I just think that the podcast medium is unique because everybody can put up a show, and they can put up the show exactly the way they want it. Because I don't have a producer or editor, I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
And hopefully people will like it. And it seems like they do, I guess. I hope they do, because I take it very personal, because this is just me.
So I was gonna play off the podcasting. Have you ever thought about doing like little shorts about, kind of video shorts, like either cartoonish or, kind of like a little TV show about, your stories? I mean, bring the podcast to life. But like you said,
Exactly what I thought.
TV stuff might kind of ruin it.
What I thought of was doing, because if I was going to do, yes, I thought about doing it. And with the success of the podcast in the past 2 weeks, I'm sure I'm going to get approached. I mean, I don't have an agent or manager. That's why you don't see me on any festivals or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I don't want to. I do. I just don't have anybody out there trying to get me gigs. But the idea was brought up about doing the Cathouse Hollywood podcast as an animated series. And that, to me, is interesting, because if you did acting, you're not going to get somebody, you're not going to get Axel.
Correct.
You're not going to get a young Nikki Sixx or a young Eddie Vedder. But if you did animated versions, I think it'd be really, really cool. Sort of like Mike Judge does with Tales from the Tour Bus.
Exactly.
What the show's called. I don't know what his show's called, but I love it. And something similar to that, I think, would be so cool. And that's possible. Who knows?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's pretty interesting. Another thing, I follow you on social media, Facebook, Instagram, also Twitter. You, on April Fool's Day, kind of announced that you were coming up with a Headbangers Ball, kind of playing off the thing you did back in the day with Chris Cornell and everybody. You kind of said you were going to redo it. I actually tweeted you saying that I've had the same idea and I want to run with it in Chicago. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
Well, that was an April Fool's joke.
I know, but I'm just saying, would you run with it?
I get asked, you got to understand, I love doing Headbangers Ball. Right now, I think a Headbangers Ball would be great. I really would like to do the Headbangers Ball, but I don't have a network to do it. I'm not going to go try to get a network. I'm not going to go try to get the licensing. I'm not going to pay the camera crews. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, okay? I don't want to do that right now. That's something that is just too much stressful. I want somebody to come to me with a network, with a video channel, like an Access or a VH1 or somebody, and say, let's do Headbangers Ball, and then I'm interested to do it. So here I am, a guy that really wants to do the Headbangers Ball, okay? I want to do it so bad. Now, every day I go out, somebody goes, dude, why don't you bring back the ball? I'm like, I want to. It's not like I'm saying, no, it's just not the right time. I would love to do it. And then when I say I'd love to do it, it's not so I can be on TV. It's not so I can get money. It's because I love to do it, because it'd be so much fun, especially because there are good bands out there. And I think that people would love to see interviews where I'm hanging out and goofing around, like the Bowling Weekend with Chris Cornell and stuff like that, I would love to do that. Somebody will come up with it and I'll do it.
Well, maybe you and I should talk a little bit more, because me and my business partner have been talking about it, and we wanted to talk to you about it at some point. You never know. I might hit you up and see what's up with that. You don't hold back basically from your history of being on top to kind of hitting rock bottom and then kind of jumping back into things. Can you give any motivational tips on kind of how you brought yourself from being the low of low? Because I've been there. I've been living basically out of my car at times, and now I'm kind of bringing myself back up the last few years. How did you do it? Like, what kind of things personally did you do?
Because I don't really talk often about drug addiction or booze, because there is nothing that irritates me more than seeing this guy on TV saying, I'm sober and I'm going to be sober every day, and this is sober living is the way it is. You don't ever hear me say that, because the truth is, I don't know if I am going to be sober tomorrow. I can tell you that I have been drug and alcohol free for 31 years. That being said, I still don't know if I'll be sober tomorrow, but I'm sober right now. Okay? That doesn't mean that I'm not an addict. That doesn't mean that I don't have really messed up addictive personalities. And my addiction is what fuels me many times. So there were times when it was really, really low. And let me tell you something. when you have no money, your girlfriend is taking off her clothes for a living, and you're at a car dealership trying to sell Volkswagens, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Are you the guy from Headbangers Ball?" It's tough not to put a bullet in your head.
Yep.
It's tough not to, but I just didn't. I just didn't. I just said, okay, here's this story. I've told this story a couple times, but I just think it's my favorite story ever, and I'm going to tell it again. So if you heard it,
sure.
Sorry. I'm selling cars. I have no money. I've got a crappy apartment in the San Fernando Valley. I'm fighting with my girlfriend. I go up to my apartment. The power's turned off, and it's freezing cold. I grab my video camera. I put the video camera on. I said, okay, Ricky, remember this day because this is the lowest it will ever get, and things will pick up. So just remember this day, okay? And then tomorrow, everything's going to get better. The next day, somebody went into my house and stole my video camera.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it just goes to show you, as bad as it can get, it can always get worse. And I went, and don't think that just because you're on Headbangers Ball, or just because you had a talk radio career, you can walk in there and get a job. The hardest thing about having a little bit of fame is that you go back to doing what everybody else does. Let's say all of America are plumbers, okay? There's nothing wrong with being a plumber. Plumbers are trades. Thank God there are plumbers. We need plumbers, okay? So everybody that's a plumber is great because they've got a good job. Let's say you're on MTV, and then all of a sudden you get a job as a plumber, which is what everybody else does. All of a sudden, you're a loser, you're a has-been, so you can't go back to mediocrity like everybody else does. Because if you do, you're a loser. Well, I couldn't even get to mediocrity because guess what? I have no trades. What is my background? My background's talking about rock and roll. That's all I do. And as far as I know, going up to somebody and talking about music doesn't pay bills. So I had to get a job, and I worked my ass off selling cars or whatever I could get, and then slowly was willing to do certain gigs that I would do for free, and I get gigs here and there. And yes, I did have more opportunities than most people would, but it still wasn't easy, and there was a lot of days with no money working on unemployment. And I'm still to this day just so damn hungry and scared. I'm scared. You know, if somebody says, what are your biggest regrets? My biggest regret is I never stood back at the Cathouse and said, hey, David Bowie's in the DJ booth. Go get your picture taken with David Bowie. Hey, go there and watch Alice Cooper. Go there and watch Alice in Chains. Go there and watch Motorhead. But I was running around all the time. And the thing is, I'm still running around, always hungry. You know, when my podcast today went to number 5 on the iTunes charts, I was like, holy crap, it was number 5. I was so happy. I called my mom. I'm running around number 5. And then when I go back and I go, oh my God, it's number 7. It's like, really? If somebody would have told me that I'd wake up and my podcast would be number 7, I'd be so excited.
Exactly.
You know? But the thing is, you get there and then I don't appreciate it, and I keep on wanting more and more and more. The podcast isn't making me money, but I'll be damned if I don't want the biggest rock, coolest rock podcast. You just got to be so damn hungry and refuse to give up. That being said, there is a time when you don't give up, but you have to turn your focus somewhere else. I want to be a rock star. I still want to be a rock star. I want to be a rock star singing in a band. I played in a band. We went out on tour. We never put out a record. Okay, I got to focus somewhere else. You know, there's a million people that says they're going to be in bands forever, and now they're 60-year-olds still thinking they're going to be in a band. They look fucking pathetic.
Yep.
You know, there gets to be a time when you're saying, okay, I tried my ass off. But let's say if you're going to work as a car salesman, work your ass off, but understand, you never know, and I don't want to sound all like weird, but you never know what the universe is going to put in your position. You might meet somebody that's going to steer you in a different direction that might lead to something else. You know, you just got to believe you can do it, and then convince everybody else you can do it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I'm the best that I am. I'm the best in the business, and then part of me believes I'm the worst in the business. You got to find that happy medium.
Yep. Exactly, and you put it perfectly. I mean, just the way your mentality is going forward, man, is the way I kind of live how I do things right now. I'm going back to school for TV and radio broadcasting at 44 years old, and I'm like, there was a time where I was like, I just have to do something I love more than what I was already doing. So you know what? Let's do it. That's what I'm doing.
I went to UCLA about 6 years ago. I said, okay, what can I do? I'm not making much money right now, or I don't know how long this is going to do. What can I do? And actually, it was longer. No, okay, no, I did have a good job then. I still went to UCLA, and I decided I was going to go for my KDAC, which would become a drug counselor. So I went to school, and I became a tried to get the license as a drug counselor, and I interned and stuff like this. And then I found out if I work my ass off, really, really work hard, 6 days a week, I could make $40,000 a year. But then I also realized I can do stupid stuff like I do now, make a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of focused that way, but I still tried because, I mean, when I lost my job in talk radio and went broke, I was willing to get a job doing anything. I'm not too proud to say, well, I'll be damned if I'm going to work in a coffee shop or if I'm going to work in a car dealership. Just get out and work. Work brings work. You know, no matter what, you have to work. You have to do something. And even if it's working at a supermarket, work at a supermarket until you get wherever you want. Or you can make money working at a supermarket. Just whatever you do, be the damn best at it. When I was a car salesman, I made business cards saying that I was in charge of entertainment sales for Volkswagen. There's no such thing.
Exactly.
But I'm like, well, damn it, I ain't going to be stupid car salesman. I wasn't good at it. I didn't sell a lot of cars. But I figured I'm going to give it my shot. And I said, I'm going to give it my shot, and I'm going to own the damn dealership. Okay, none of that ever happened.
Yeah.
But I tried my ass off, and I never, ever stopped.
And with your personality and gift of gab, you probably are able to talk to anybody anytime. So it kind of worked out for you.
To the point of nauseam that they wish me I would shut up.
And hopefully not punch anybody out. So that's a good thing. So Rick
did that too, and that's what led me to being taken.
Unfortunately, things happen like that in life, and just run with it. So
I have no regrets. I mean, I've done some really stupid career things, like hitting somebody that caused me to lose my job and going bankrupt. But right now, I'm in a really good spot today. And if those bad things didn't happen, I wouldn't be in the spot that I'm in today. And for anybody that's in a really, 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 really bad spot, it does get better. And it might not be today, and it might be next week. But one day you're going to say, oh, my God, it did actually get better.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ricky, I really want to thank you for taking your time today talking about this. Also, check out his podcast, Cathouse Podcast. Apple Podcast, where else can you find it?
You can find the Cathouse Audio Podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify, and anywhere else.
Spotify too,
you
nice.
Can find podcasts. I don't know where you can. I honestly don't know what I'm doing, but people like it. And
then also follow Ricky on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the little socials. You got them all over there.
Another podcast that people can listen to called 19 Minutes with Ricky and Leah. That's something that's just kind of goofy. Sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's just everything, and it's only 19 minutes long.
Well, there you go. Take some time, listen to him. He's good.
There you go.
So thank you very much.